Welcome to the Indestructible Men Podcast, the podcast from men for men, to give you the tools to develop mental and physical power. Your hosts are Adam Brindley, Paul Sutherberry, and Chris Matsumura.
Guys, welcome to the Indestructible Men video series. I'm Adam Brindley, your host, and I'm joined today with my co-host, Paul Sutherberry. So today we're going to be touching on a couple of different subjects. We're going to be talking about stress, and we're also going to be talking about certain impact factors that will dictate change within our lives, and that could be in so many different areas of life. So first of all, let's dive straight in. Talking, obviously, you've changed quite a lot over the years, Paul.
Mm-hmm.
So just talk about certain factors that you believe have impacted your change.
So we were talking about this earlier. One thing that really inspired me to change was hitting rock bottom. Was kind of being like, I can't do this any longer. I can't be this miserable any longer.
Yeah.
And we talked about that quote that things need to get worse before they can get better. So it's all well and good kind of going along with the day to day if it's bearable, and you can kind of get through that. You can kind of get through the crap. You can kind of get through the crap as long as it's bearable.
Yeah.
And it's when things get unbearable, that's what kind of motivates us to make a change. And that's why I got to me is I was kind of doing 60 hours a week. I was working in retail. It was something I didn't want to be doing, but I'd kind of surrounded myself with a car that I couldn't afford, and then I was just locked in then to the point where I was doing something I really didn't enjoy, to the point where I was like, something needs to change. And I did that radically.
Yeah.
Like I said, right, I'm going to go to university. I'm going to leave this high-paying job I'm in. I'm going to go to university, which is £12,000 a year. I'm going to get my personal training qualifications. I'm going to do that on the side, and then I'm going to work in a gym. And everyone thought I was crazy because I'd made such a radical change. But that's what you need sometimes.
Yeah.
You need something like a life event to kind of push you into that change. And that's what kind of inspired me to make that change.
Do you think you'd all sort of always had that then in the back of your mind as something that you wanted to do, but at the time, until you believe you hit rock bottom, you were sort of like, well, it's comfortable. I'm in my comfort zone, got a good paying job. I know you knew what you were doing. You were in a sort of a routine. But did you always have that in the back of your mind that you wanted to go to university, that you wanted to do your personal training certification and start that as well?
To be fair to me, I think it was more of a self-esteem thing. I didn't believe I was capable. I didn't believe I was worthy of it.
Yeah.
So for me, it was more once I started working on my self-esteem with the physical stuff, the outside stuff, the inside stuff started to follow as well.
Yeah.
So with the self-esteem started to increase with, I started to see some changes in the gym. That had an impact on my mental health as well.
Yeah.
So, and I always see it as two different people. The person I was before, he's not here anymore. He's gone.
Yeah.
I was reborn. That's how I kind of see it. Anyway, that's how I kind of pushed myself forwards. That
almost cut that
part
of you away.
Yeah. I kind of just that was a weaker person. The person who I am today, standing for you, is a completely different person to who I was 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And you know what, that people change as well, and life's long.
Yeah.
So that's why I don't tend to hold grudges either. Because I know people change, people do things they might regret, they don't really mean. So that's why one of the main reasons I don't hold grudges.
Yeah.
Because I am a big believer of people change, things change, life's long.
Yeah. But it's a lifelong journey anyway, self-development, isn't it, in all aspects, emotionally, physically, mentally. We're always evolving or trying to evolve and potentially become a better version of ourselves. So I respect that, not holding grudges. That takes quite a lot of guts to even acknowledge that.
Yeah. I'm gonna say I've got people that in my life that I wouldn't necessarily say I'm on the best terms with, but if they came into my life now, I'll welcome them with open arms, because I just think it's not like life's too short, but I just think, people change, and I don't need to hold on to that resentment anymore. I'm not that type of person.
I think as well, when you're holding on to that, the only person that potentially impacts is yourself anyway.
Yeah.
If you're holding on to a grudge about someone, they don't necessarily know this unless you're actively telling them and voicing that.
Yeah.
That person doesn't know. It's all inwards. It's all yourself that's holding on to that, which I imagine can cause quite a lot of internal conflict and battles with yourself anyway.
Absolutely. If like people are plagued by like say resentment, and they hold on to a grudge so tightly that they're only hurting themselves.
Yeah.
And then it's something that, like, for example, I've let go of years ago, but you're hurting yourself by keeping hold of it.
Yeah.
So that's the only person that's hurting is yourself if you hold on to that. And if you just let it go, they have no power over you anymore.
Yeah.
That's it.
No, I like that. From that, then, following on, obviously you went through quite a drastic remodeling of yourself.
Yeah.
Going to university, as well as studying your personal training certification as well, which I've done that myself, and it's quite an intense course anyway. Leading into stress, then, going through all this change as well, physically, mentally, how was that in regards to stress?
It was stressful because I didn't know where to start, for example, and there was a lot coming on, and I still feel stressed every day. Like when it's a good sign.
Yeah.
It's not always a bad sign. Stress for me, stress is like I'm doing something hard, and anything that's hard is worth having.
Yeah.
Everything worth having is hard. So stress is good. I embrace stress. However, we monitor it as best I can.
Yeah.
So like when I was on the Indestructible Men with yourself, we had them daily planners. They worked great for me.
Yeah.
Being able to plan my day and getting the stuff done that I needed to do, because it's when you put stuff off, it's when you put it to the side, you put your head in the sand, and you ignore something which normally takes 2 minutes.
Yeah.
If you actually applied yourself to the problem, it takes 2 minutes to fix.
Yeah.
But you build up to be this really ugly, dark, horrible thing that you've got to do, and then that's when the stress gets on top of you. Then
almost a dread of doing it.
Yeah.
I spoke about this briefly in a podcast episode that I'd done the other day with someone, and we were talking briefly about stress. And there's a quote that really stood out to me that I heard, and I can't remember who said it, but they said basically stress comes from unmet responsibility. So like you just hit the nail on the head there. When you're putting things off, when you're not actively committing to things that you know you need to get done, that forms quite a high level of stress. I've done it myself, put things off, and then when you actually commit to it, the relief you get from it is incredible, for one. But I always find as well that we build it up and make it a lot of the time worse because we don't commit to doing it when we need to, and that's what causes that stress. I've found with myself as well that I, like you, I think work quite well under stress. So if something is stressing me out, like you said, I know it's important. Sometimes that stress will then become a sense of urgency. So like deadlines with assignments, you'll be going through it as well. As that approaches, that creates a higher level of stress. And we can manage that by committing to it and using it in a sort of a positive way, and actively using that stress to help push us and drive us to complete the task, or we can make it worse by putting it off longer. And I think I work well under that level of stress because it makes me partake in what's needed. It makes me commit to what I need to do. So when that stress reaches a certain level, my brain goes, right, let's get at it now. Let's get it boxed off. Let's get it done.
Yeah. What would you say to someone who doesn't necessarily handle stress the same way that we do? Someone who kind of is comatose by stress, someone who kind of, as soon as the stress, they shut down.
Yeah.
Like, what would you say to someone to try and help that?
I think with that, they need to get very clear on the priorities. Once you identify what's actually causing that stress, you can then take steps to work on it. But a lot of people live their lives in this constant level of stress because they're not clear on what it is that's actually causing it. So they go through the days just taking it almost as it comes, not clear on what it is that's causing the stress. They're just dealing with that, which then causes overwhelm, causes anxiety. When you're stressed, your body releases adrenaline. So when you're constantly in that sort of fight or flight mode, it's not a good place to be mentally. It's not a good place to be physically, emotionally, mentally. So if someone's like that and they can't work well under stress, the first thing I tell people is identify what's causing the stress. Is it a deadline? Is it work related? Is it relationship related? What is it that's causing that stress? And then you can begin to start working on it. And it might take some time. You might not get it done, boxed off in one day. It might be a continual thing that you need to work on. But once you've got a clear idea of what it is that's causing it, that's when you can work on it.
Almost make like a list,
Yeah.
a priority list, and then start at the top.
Yeah. I think that's why the planner comes in very handy, that obviously I provide in the coaching program that I do. A lot of people come and they don't have a plan. They don't know how they're living a day. They might have an appointment for a GP or say a work schedule 9 to 5 or whatever shift pattern they're on, but that's it. They don't have a plan for the rest of the time. They don't have a plan for the rest of the day. So when you come into the coaching program, you get this plan and it breaks down everything that you need to get done each day. And that creates that recognition of things that need to be done. Mm-hmm. You can identify then triggers, you can identify patterns of behaviour, you can identify possible stresses or causes of stress, and that gives you that ability then to work on it, as well as working on your time management as well.
Yeah, so that's something that I kind of someone says to me quite regularly, is like it's almost like it ties into your physique, because like it's all about like delayed gratification. Yeah. And they always say like see yourself as an ice cube. So like you to get to the center, to kind of to get to the ideal self is in the center of the ice cube, and you've got to melt it. You've got to kind of get it through, and you've got to kind of start that process. So you've got to melt it down and get delayed gratification, just doing a little bit by a little bit, and then what's inside is worth it. Yeah. Someone says that to me all the time, because like, oh, I'm not where I want with my physique, or I'm not getting there. So it's like we're just melting the ice cube. Yeah. We're just
chipping away at it.
Just chipping away
daily.
That's it.
But that goes for every aspect as well. It doesn't just go for physique or work related. You can apply that to every aspect of life. Constantly chipping away, and don't expect results overnight, because it's very rare that's going to happen. It's taking the time, chipping away at it. Like you said, fitness related, you're not going to get to your ideal weight limit or lift the ideal weight that you're trying to lift overnight. It takes time to build that up.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And sometimes as well, as like when we're talking about stress, it's like sometimes you got to think like, is it worth like is this worth stressing over? Is the juice worth the squeeze? Like when you squeeze a lemon, is the juice worth the squeeze? Yeah. Like is what I'm gonna get out of stressing over this worth it? Yeah. And sometimes it is easy like to let things go. It's like that analogy where you're holding onto a rope. Sometimes it's easier to kind of let things go rather than burn your hands. Some things aren't worth stressing over. Yeah. So that's something I've kind of tried to battle with as well. It's like trying to not stress over silly things. Yeah. And try and let things go a little bit. I can't control everything. I can't control how everyone views me. I can't there's lots of things in this life that are out of your control. Yeah. So like it's all about kind of not stressing the things that aren't in your control and putting your effort and energy into stuff that you can control.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, we can only control ourselves.
Exactly.
That's literally the only thing we have power over, is ourselves and our actions and behaviours.
And how we respond to others.
Yeah. We can't control other people. We can't control external situations. It's how we respond to it and our own behaviours. That's all we have control over. So like you said, letting go of things that are out of our control takes a lot of stress off people's shoulders. Stressing about other people, stressing about jobs, situations. We're not in control of that. We can never control somebody else. I get it all the time. People asking, how can I change my partner? Like, they can physically see the individual struggling. How can he change them? And I always say, you can never force someone to change. The more you push on someone to change, the more they are likely to rebel against it.
Mm.
All you can do is be like a beacon for them, is be a role model for them to be inspired by and to look up to, and be like, have almost respect for the work that that individual's putting in. And there, one or two things will happen. They will follow suit and want to keep up with that individual, or they won't. And again, you can't control that. That falls in line with sort of three aspects that I've identified that create change in people. So you spoke there about hitting rock bottom, and that created enough change for you to want to commit to changing yourself, who you are physically, mentally, and emotionally. So I have identified three sort of impacting factors. The first one is inspiration. So that's when you become inspired by someone or something. You might see something online or on television, and you get that sense of inspiration. That will create the emotion of motivation. Now, motivation is just an emotion, and emotions don't last forever. They come and go constantly, and in sort of a flow state. But inspiration can start the process of change. If you see something that really inspires you to almost to your core, that will create potentially enough motivation to start the process of change. The other aspect is ambition. Now, I find this as goal driven. So if you can be inspired by something and have a motivation to create a goal, that will create ambition. This could be a good example. It is work related. Your boss telling you, if you there's a promotion up for grabs in the next, say, 2 months, and then you have to work potentially extra, put more effort into your role to potentially gain the reward of a promotion. So that creates ambition. Same with fitness related. You could have the ambition of reaching a certain goal, weight, the ambition of lifting a certain weight in relation to, say, deadlifting. You've got that ambition, you've got that goal. And then the next one, which I think falls in line with where you're at, and that's desperation.
Mm-hmm.
When things become too much to handle, when things become too uncomfortable for us, that creates desperation. Again, looking at fitness related, if you're severely overweight, you go to the GP and they tell you you're borderline type 2 diabetic. That may create, and it won't always, because some people will still not change, but that may create desperation for people to change.
Mm-hmm.
Same with relationships. Your partner might come to you and say, listen, if you don't work on this relationship, it's over. Same with your job. Your boss might come to you and say, if you don't start upping your game, this job, you won't be here much longer.
Mm-hmm.
That will create a sense of desperation for people. So I personally feel there are three really important factors that can dictate change in someone.
And do you think everyone kind of goes through all three, or do you think it's kind of like one or the other? Do you think, is it kind of like the stages of grief type of thing? Do you think like you'll kind of feel all three of those?
I think it depends on the situation. It could be, you could feel all three of them. You could be inspired, you could have that ambition to reach a goal, and then you could have that desperation to change. Mm-hmm. Or it could just be one or the other. I think the most impactful one, for me personally, is desperation. Mm-hmm. That desperation is something that I found in myself when I was going through a real bad place and I was drinking excessively. I was dealing with suicidal ideologies. That desperation led me to change. What led me down this path in the first place. It's why I'm studying what I'm studying in university. That desperation, because I was pretty much the same at rock bottom, led me to change. It created that change. And along that journey, I've become ambitious. I want to create businesses. I want to create certain things for my life and my children. I want to work and have the ambition of becoming a psychotherapist so then I can help others. And that has also inspired me. That's created inspiration for me to pursue that and continue that journey. So I think along the way, you tend to potentially move through them stages. You might initially be at one place, and along that journey, then you might move into 2 or all 3 aspects, or it might just be going through a continuous loop almost.
Like you said, I think the desperation is the most potent.
Yeah.
It's the one that sparks and inspires the most drastic change in an individual. I think you're absolutely right there. I felt it. I think anyone who's gone through a major life change has had that point where they've not hit rock bottom, but they've kind of said, right, enough's enough now. I need to get motivated and crush this now and get where I want to be.
Yeah. It creates that urgency a lot of the time, and don't get me wrong, sometimes it won't, and unfortunately that's a dark place for people to be when they are at rock bottom and they don't know how to change, or they think other options are better. That's where certain coping strategies can come in, which aren't always positive. Drink, drugs, gambling. There's a whole range of sort of negative coping strategies, and that's where those tend to lead to a worse situation. But at the time, that individual is almost doing what they believe is the best thing for them. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's when people ignore it as well.
Yeah.
Like, it's too much of an upheaval
to
do that work to change. So like we talked about earlier, they just stay in like a mundane like state. Like a still state where, because changing requires effort. And it's a hard work. So you've got to put that effort in to make a change for the better. So a lot of people, like, that effort is too much. So they'd rather just go through the crap, go through the day to day. And these are the people that won't necessarily ever grow. Because they're not willing to put themselves in a position to be desperate or be inspired or be ambitious, because that requires hard work. And some people are just either scared of hard work, or they're just frightened of hard work because they don't, because it brings about change. And a lot of people are very happy to be in a routine, like a very like steady life, one linear, stagnant. just like one level, rather than risk and take a jump, take a chance to something that they actually care about.
It's that falls in line with that sense of the uncomfortable, the unknown. A lot of people will stay in it could be a very toxic place because they're, like you said, they're afraid to take that leap because of the unknown. And this might be all they've known. So for someone to step outside of that completely is a very daunting and scary place to be. But if you're also not aware of the benefits of it, or you're not aware of how bad the situation you're in currently is, you're not potentially going to have that desperation, the inspiration, or the ambition to change, because you don't know how good it could be or how bad it is currently.
It's like having the blinkers on. Like, you don't want to look in case you might see something you like, and then you have to make that effort to go get it. I see it all the time. People in dead-end jobs that they hate, and they kind of just do the same routine day in, day out, rather than actually going for something that they're going to enjoy. Like, for example, I could have very easily stayed in retail and cracked on. I would have maybe moved up the ladder a little bit, but I wouldn't have been fulfilled. I wouldn't have been doing what I'm doing now. And what I'm doing now took a lot of effort and a lot of energy. I had to go for UCAS, I had to apply for uni, I actually had to get in, I had to go to college before I went to uni. There were so many steps that led up to it. But now I'm doing what I'm doing. I've never want to change for the world.
Yeah.
It was a lot of hard work, but I needed to get to that desperate state to change it and to actually make about a change.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of hard work, and some people are scared of that. But I promise you, once you actually get to that point where you know what you want, go for it.
Yeah.
No matter what age you are, just go for it, because you've only got one life. Why not?
Yeah.
Why not go for it?
It's worth, a lot of the time it's worth the effort.
Yeah.
And it's worth the sacrifice, and it's worth the hard work, as long as it's what you truly want. And you'll never know that unless you experience it, unless you trial it and you commit to it for a certain amount of time and live that situation. You'll never know unless you do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But you've got to be in alignment with it, and it's got to be true to what you want.
Yeah. And there'll be people out there who go, oh, well, I can't do that because I've got this, this, and this. Like, what would you say to them people who are stuck in that, like, oh, I'm trapped mindset? Like, oh, I'd love to go to uni, or I'd love to go to the gym, but I've got no time. I've got to do this job to pay the bills, and I've got to see the kids. Like I've got kids and I've got a job, so I can't risk that. Like, what would you say to that person who is in that, like, trapped mindset?
Again, everyone's situations are different. I can't tell someone how to live their life. But what I will say is, get clear on your time. Get clear on where your attention and focus is at. What are you putting focus and attention on in your life? Is it benefiting you realistically? Or is it just a coping strategy or being in your comfort zone? Identify what you actually want to achieve, and then see if you're actually making excuses.
Yeah.
And are those excuses a form of protection? Is it a way of remaining in that place because it is comfortable? Or are they legit? Some people might be overworked and not have time. But a lot of the time, and obviously talking from experience, probably about 98% of people do have time.
Yeah.
You've got a child, you're
Yeah.
working full time.
Yeah.
You still managed to achieve that and go to university.
Mm-hmm.
I've got 3 kids. I was working full time. I still managed to go to university and pursue my goals.
Yeah.
So it's what you truly want. And if you identify it and you understand that's what you truly want and the reasons why you truly want it, and you put your focus and attention completely on it, you're more likely to commit to it.
Yeah. And it moves back into that ambition stage again, because these people will say, oh, I've got no time, I'm trapped, I'm busy, I've got kids, but then they'll sit down at night and watch a 2-hour Netflix series, and that 2 hours could be spent doing a home workout, reading a book, like developing themselves. But what they do is they give the energy and effort to something else that kind of just ties them by to the point where they're so drained they've got nothing left to give to themselves. So that's what I kind of say to a lot of people, is like, give yourself something back rather than giving to people that don't care about you so much time, so much energy. Give something to you, rather than you're so drained at the end of the day you just can't sit there and watch Netflix for 2 hours and then you moan that, oh, I haven't got time to go to the gym because I've got kids. So once you put the kids to bed, you sit there and watch Netflix for 2 hours. You can put a YouTube workout video on and just do it in your living room.
It's where people's priorities lie. And again, until you're crystal clear on those priorities, you're never going to know. So that's why I think people need to begin to plan their days. Like, I tend to now just use my phone and use my plan on my phone, and I'll live by that. But to start the process, I think it's really important to write it down. Write what you actually do. And you can even start it by not planning your day, but writing down exactly what you've done on a particular day. how long have you spent on your phone? Most phones now show you how much screen time you've been on them and what you've been on them.
Yeah, and you'd be shocked.
How long have you been on Facebook? How long have you been on Instagram? How long have you been on Twitter or YouTube? You can see it clear as day there. You can see where your priorities currently lie, and then make that switch. So that's day one, then flip it to day two, then plan your day, write time in for a home workout or go in a gym, or write time in your planner for educational purposes, family time, time with your children. Again, put in your work schedule, so you've got that as well. But then see how you feel after 1 or 2 days of doing that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like to budget time for friends and family as well. That's big for me, because when you're around like-minded individuals like yourself, it inspires you. Again, one of the three, it inspires you to do better, to lean on them, to pull from their experience, to learn from them. It's like help with that coping mechanism with that. So like budgeting time to just kind of send a message or give a call to someone that you know that's around you in your tribe, that we call it. They can kind of help support you in that as well.
Yeah.
I found that big, because obviously a few years ago when I was, I hate the word matrix, trapped in the matrix, when you're kind of stuck in that, I must work 60 hours and I've got no time for anything else. You then isolate yourself from all the support that's around you. So when I kind of took a step back from that and kind of surrounded myself with friends and family like yourself, that's when I really started to like flourish, because I had like-minded people around me, like supporting me and giving me advice and helping me through it. And I think that's really undervalued.
I think, and I'm talking from men because obviously I'm a guy, you're a guy. I think men need to have that. They need to have a tribe, as I call it, people around them that support their ambitions, that support their goals. You can see it it's massive in military. It's massive in construction. You could be in a really shit situation. The weather could be horrendous, but the banter and the relationships between workers will keep them going through that day. And that's the same for every aspect. Military, they could be in a terrible, life-threatening situations, but the support around them keeps them as safe as possible and keeps them going. And that's the same with everything. Any work environment, you can create a tribe. Any personal area in life, you can create a tribe of people around you. That could be in a gym. Gym classes are great for that. You'll see it. You obviously work in a gym. I've worked in gyms for years. You'll see the community that's based, especially around classes. And that keeps people going. It keeps people motivated. It keeps people supported. You're more likely to commit to your goals when you're around people that have the same or similar goals.
And it's like those people as well that can kind of like inspire you. So like if you cut yourself completely off from everyone, you're more likely to go into that vegetable state, that state of, I can't do it, or I'll just kind of go through the day-to-day motions now. And then that's when you start to kind of just go through the motions then, rather than actually striving for something better.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, just to sort of wrap up this episode then, I just want to sort of summarise certain things that we've spoke about today. So between us, we spoke about stress and how it can be a positive or it can be a negative depending on the situation and also how you respond to it. We've also spoke about identifying causes of stress, identifying goals that we want to achieve and ways to change as an individual. We spoke about 3 aspects that I've personally identified that can create and cause change in individuals. You've got inspiration, you've got ambition, and then probably the most impactful one is desperation. Anything you want to add?
No, I think you hit the summary nail on the head there, Bob on.
Awesome stuff. So give the page a like, follow and subscribe. Hit the little notification button so you'll be notified of any upcoming episodes. We are going to be bringing more content, loads of different topics, including workouts. Paul's going to take us through a number of different workouts. We're going to be doing a number of different interviews with fighters, different business owners. So we have a lot of content coming over the next few months. So give us a like, subscribe, and a share.
Thanks, guys.